Good morning, David.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to the Green Gorilla Conversations show. Thank you for being here today and tell us about you and your job and what you do and what's exciting about it as well.
It's great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Fabulous. So, David, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do and how you got to this point, actually?
Yeah, sure. In a nutshell. So my name is David Symons. I'm London-based. I'm UK Director of Sustainability for WSP. WSP is a 48,000 strong design practice. The projects that we're working on range from the projects like Crossrail, HS2, probably two of our biggest projects, and an infrastructure world through to buildings. The Shard continues to be one of the shining examples of our work. The key areas that I lead on for WSP is I set up and I lead a program in WSP which we call Future Ready, which is all about seeing the future more clearly and then challenging every one of our 48,000 designers to design both for future climate, future society, future resources, and future technology. So that's a program that I set up 4 years ago. It's now going to be one of the underpinning themes of our new global strategy. It's absolutely one of the things that is defining WSP. I've been in WSP for about 13 years. Before that, I worked for gosh, probably longer than I would choose to admit, about 28 years as an environmental consultant.
Oh my goodness, you don't look the age.
So, well, that's the thing about the environmental profession, is it keeps you young. Technically, my background, I got a physical geography degree, a BSc, a long time ago, and also an MBA as well.
Fabulous. So tell me a bit more about this, this future program. It sounds incredibly interesting because this is something that until this point has been quite elusive in a way. So how do you future-proof buildings? How do you think about the future where you don't know what's going, well, you know what's going to happen, but how do you adapt that thinking into buildings?
Sure. Well, I mean, look, the starting point for us to think about this is what we design is there for a long time. So if we design London Bridge Station, for example, which has just reopened, the design life that we get given by Network Rail, our client there, is 120 years. So that's absolutely typical. We know, because we've done some purposeful research, that, and it stands to reason that the world is going to be quite different over those coming 120 years. So just think obviously about what is future climate. We'll just think also about who is going to be using that station over the next 120 years will be quite different. Londoners will be different, their needs, their wants, their expectations. Technology is going to change a huge amount, and also resources and resource availability will change. So then the third strand is we know that if we just follow design codes, and that's very often the sort of the first thing that design teams go to, design codes anticipate some of the trends that we'll expect, but absolutely by no means all. So that was our starting point for Future Ready, was just to say, look, put those three together as a world-class design practice, engineering. Just think about the scale of the projects that we're delivering across the world with our 48,000 staff. If we just follow code, we're either, we're missing an opportunity here, and also it's just a terrific opportunity to grow our business and to set ourselves apart by thinking future ready. So that was the starting point, the sort of the intellectual starting point behind that. And it's a program that's just grown over the last 4 to 5 years, from a small idea to being really where it is now.
I think, as you correctly say, the impact as a practice, even if you just look at WSP, is enormous because of the amount of projects you might be dealing with across, around the world. But so is it all about flexibility then, I suppose, the fact that we don't know everything at this point, and probably, you need to leave doors open for new things to come and new technologies to arrive. Is that the core of it.
Flexibility is a huge but not necessarily the only answer, but is a very important one. So, I mean, just as an example, if you think about if we design a hospital now, Sahlgrenska Hospital in Gothenburg has just opened. The design life for that is 70 years. If we think about the hospitals like Park Hospital in Trafford, that's a 70-year-old hospital. It was the first hospital that opened in the NHS. When that opened, that was treating tuberculosis and World War II injuries. It's obviously not, thankfully, treating too much of that now. So the hospitals we design now have to be flexible to treat the heart disease and the cancer and the like that they treat today. But in 70 years, it would be much more lifestyle illnesses rather than cancer. It would be geriatric care and the like. And also how those hospitals function will completely change too. So it is, flexibility is just really important. So we'll design things that can be very, very easily changed and adapted is one of the key areas that we will look at.
That's absolutely fascinating. So David, tell me, so obviously you had a very long career at this point and you are a recognized person of influence in this industry. You won an award as well recently, I heard. So what did you do to get to this point? So is it just hard work and, and doing day to day and being curious, or is there something else that, in the recipe that, you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is hard work and it is being curious. I think flexibility is also important as well, because what I was working on, when I started work in the industry, what I'm doing now is really completely different from what I was doing. I think probably a couple of other areas that I would add is tenacity. Because look, I mean, programs like Future Ready didn't just happen by, yes, suddenly light bulb moment and it's sold across the business. There's been quite a lot of work and tenacity and dead ends and the like to get us where we are now. And look, and there's still a whole load more to do. We should celebrate where we've got, but there's still a lot to do. And then I think the other area that we should probably spend a bit more time talking about is that successful programs from a business perspective are reliant both on a technical what are you going to do, but also a management and business case for how do you actually implement it. And it's the how that is almost more important than the technical what.
Okay, yeah, tell me more then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose my learning on this was some years ago. I led a program to develop the global refrigeration strategy for one of the world's biggest retailers, and I suppose one of the learnings that I had from that was that technically we employed some very, very strong technical experts from our Norwegian, our South African, our US business, Canada, to give us a very, very strong technical what should the next generation refrigeration strategy be for this retailer, that was both much more energy efficient and also massively reduced leaks of chilling gases. Technically, that took us about 3 months to come up with that answer. We then spent 6 months, so 2/3 of the budget for this commission, then consulting, selling that into the business, talking to people, repeating probably the same 6-slide presentation, probably about 50 times to different people, different leaders, different market leaders, just understanding how does that play to you? Are there anything else that you would say? Do you agree? When do we launch this program? How will that land with you? And that's a real light bulb moment for me, really, that as technical people, which is really where most of us started in environmental and sustainability consultancy. You can have a technical what, but you've got to then put as much, if not more time into the how do we actually execute and deliver that out. Otherwise, you'd end up with a brilliant technical solution that doesn't land in a business and we all get frustrated.
I think you also touch upon a point that is quite interesting. So you spend a lot of time actually talking to stakeholders. You spend a lot of time talking to people that will actually use the system. And I think that's something that sometimes is missing. Not that we don't talk to people, but sometimes we assume they know, and we assume, we we understand what they want.
Yeah.
Probably that's a key element as well.
I find this, I mean, for Future Ready, we have 48,000 people in our business, 7,500 people in the UK. Last year we had 1,000 new people who joined our business in the UK. Just even standing still, just thinking about how do we make sure that those 1,000 new starters get a good understanding of what our vision is for Future Ready and how they can be a part of it. That's an enormous communication exercise. So a very, very large amount of my time is spent on giving presentations, on webinars, on engagement, and the like. And also having some strong governance structures, so it's not just me doing that. But yeah, you can't underestimate the importance of that communication and sharing the message time and time and time again.
I think because we know what we're doing, often we get bored of explaining again, thinking
Yes.
again, sort of assuming other people know. But actually, when you have such a big amount of people in front of you, you have to. So
the director of my of our Canadian business, when I was talking to him as we were planning Future Ready rollout, his counsel on this is, you talk about your program until you are absolutely bored about it, because when you are bored about it, our clients are just beginning to hear about it. And the same goes for staff as well, and it's not complicated. I have probably for Future Ready, I have 2 or 3 generally standard slide decks that honestly I deliver in the business. Even now, 4 years on, I deliver these presentations probably 4 times a week. Just this morning before I came on this presentation, I was doing a webinar to 200 of our early career professionals. You cannot underestimate the importance of communication and the how, and persistence on it.
That's brilliant. I absolutely agree on that, and I think we need to get that message across to our colleagues as well, who think obviously it's a complex profession. You have to be always on the on the look for new solutions, and you need to know your stuff, your basics, and then the innovations and everything. But I think a lot of time needs to be spent actually communicating that or learning how to communicate that
and keeping it very simple, keeping it accessible, and also making it aspirational as well. As environmental professionals, that we know that there are just some enormous challenges that we face us. As we put our programs together, though, they have to be optimistic, and they have to be accessible. Simply because if we dress them up and make it mega science, then that's not understandable. If we just talk about it in a sort of a shrill capacity, then that's a turn off. And I'd say the other thing is it has to be really involving as well. So what I found with Future Ready is I give the challenge to our engineers and our design teams to say, look, guys, you're the clever people designing London Bridge, HS2 and the like. If it's going to be there for 120 years, this is where we will see the future going to be. How would you use your brilliance to do that and to celebrate their great innovations and design? I can't tell a structural engineer how to be doing his designs, but if I can give them a challenge, engineers love that, and then they get involved and they're part of it, and I can be giving them praise and celebrating their case studies and things such as that. And that's where it gets, they get the ownership and the passion for it.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. So the ownership is when people actually start listening, probably, but when this is like, oh, actually, that can make a difference. So
yeah. Absolutely. So that's where I can make a difference. And I suppose also, because we are a business as well, is also from, right from the outset with Future Ready, I've connected that to clients. So right from the outset, I've said, here is the touch points where I've taken this to 4 of our larger clients, for example, and they have all said, we think this is really special, this is absolutely great, etc., etc. So just like those movie scripts, where you take the very sort of best edited highlights. I did that right from the outset, but right now we are now tracking where is Future Ready some of the win themes in our bids, and when we win projects, we're then also able to say to what extent was Future Ready a win theme in that work, and to what extent. So I can now then say, right, so last month in the UK we won £9 million of work directly with Future Ready as a key win theme. What's not to love about that from a business case perspective?
No, that's amazing. And that's also, I know that sometimes the ethical doesn't really resonate with people, and especially some clients, they all have to look at P&L and stuff. But I think when you manage to actually crack that nut and really manage to get in their minds so that it is a business, and it's a business opportunity, it's a big one as well. I think that's when it really starts working, because exactly as you said, what's not to like?
100%. 100%. Let's be clear. I think businesses want to do the right thing, and business also has to make money as well. So but just connecting it at all those different levels. And actually, for me as well, for Future Ready, I will pitch Future Ready very much as an innovation program rather than a sustainability program, just because actually there's loads of, if I think about future society, there's a social sustainability play, future climate, then there's a big play there, future resources, about circular economy. Sustainability is writ large through this, but innovation actually is a much richer phrase for business rather than sustainability, which can,
sometimes
it can have sometimes a bit of a connotation.
Yes, unfortunately, it has a bad rep now.
It can do.
Too much greenwash in the past, I think, has caused some people to switch off to even the word. So.
Right, exactly. So I'm not slavish to that. I'm very comfortable talking sustainability where I want to talk sustainability, but very often for business, in the conversations that I have within the business, Future Ready is an innovation program.
Brilliant. So do you have any final thoughts, or maybe some other tips for people in maybe at the beginning of their career that obviously look at you and say, wow, fantastic, you are an innovator, obviously, you are someone that made it in the field. So what can you tell to our colleagues that could help them doing this journey in a more pleasant way, perhaps?
Yeah, we've covered a lot. I think probably some of the other things that I would suggest is keep your passion. We have to be passionate about this. We spend long enough in our jobs. You've got to be passionate, and what a fantastic field that we are working in. Keep learning. I continue to learn, and I learn both in terms of the day-to-day conversations that I have with our teams, but also just through, I read a lot of journals. I read a lot of media as well, and that keeps my learning fresh as well. And just that overarching point that we make progress by thinking both on the technical what, but also on the change, on the how do we make that happen, and pay as much attention to the how as the what.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, David. I think it was hugely inspirational. Good luck with the program then. It sounds just incredible. And now it seems like it's going to be adopted across the world. So, in WSP, so that's amazing. Well done.
Well, thank you, and thanks for inviting me on. If your listeners and viewers have other ideas that you'd like to share on future trends or how we can make it more effective, then I'd love to learn as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, David. Thank you.
Pleasure.